And what I can do is I can launch this in two modes. One is when it's just in quick launch mode. When I select a particular entity, what it's going to do is it selects it and adds it to my working set. So if you look here, here's my working set count. I have one entity in there now, and I have the edit and running TerraScan step selected. So this is basically done the combine of select and add to my working set, or the equivalent of using the yellow selection. If, on the other hand, I actually have it to set the mode in progress turned on, so if that's toggled on and I pick on this 117, then what's going to happen is that 117 is going to be selected, and within our MicroStation session now, you're going to see here's 117 loaded, and here are the read-only entities that are in those blocks that are circle around the particular entity that I selected. So it's launched me automatically into there, and if I had tried to pick a block that somebody else was already working with, you know, all the things that we had put the working set in there to do in terms of catching to make sure you didn't have multiple people trying to grab something, it would throw you the exception to say, hey, you can't do this because so-and-so has it open on this particular machine, so that you can see that. So having launched into edit mode, this particular block has now come up. That means I'm looking at a single block in edit mode. It is in edit mode, so you can see it's loaded in here as 117.les. If I look in my GeoQ, I've got my GeoQ step, and my 117 here is running the edit and running TerraScan step. It's in progress by me, and I'm recording my information. So what it's doing is I'm in there editing just that one particular block, and to kind of go inside with that, we've got two dialogues that are in there to give us some settings. So we had the dialog that originally gave us what we launched in with. So we can see our options that we're using there. And then we have the one that says, okay, what are we doing with these particular entities? So I've got a single block right now, and I'm saying I'm going to manually remove these entities as I move along. So I'm still in quick launch mode. And what I want to do, I clicked on the selection, so it took it off there. So I had to turn back on my quick launch. But what I want to do is add 124 in. So 124 is now going to be added into my working set and launched into TerraScan. So when I look in TerraScan, here's my project now, where I've got my one entity that it was already launched originally. I've got the second entity beside it that I can launch into, and so I can use my open block. And I can toggle now between these two blocks, and what's happening is both those blocks are now being recorded against. So I've got the 124 that I originally had. I'm going to switch out of mode so I can show you this here. Sorry, the 117 we originally had, and now I've got 124, and they're both in progress. You see that 124 is marked as starting at 10:25. 117 was started at 10:23. They're both being edited currently, so their time is being recorded against both, but I have then that narrowed scope of what's being worked on at that particular point in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove 117 here, and what that's going to do now is 117 will be changed. I had set it to the suspended state, and this you'll see in a second when I talk about the automatic, but basically a lot of times when I'm working with these things, I want to set the same status, I want to set the same note, I want to set whatever the information is, always fairly similar from block to block, and I don't necessarily want to get that little dialogue and have to enter the information each time. So this is going to give me a way to kind of set that automatically as I move through the data. But currently I'm in the manual mode, and so what you see here is I've taken it and set that particular entity, which is 117, to closed, and so now I've got that entity was open for 2 minutes and 56 seconds for editing, and my 124, which is still in edit mode, is still open and being edited. Notice I haven't had to reset my MicroStation at all during this session. So there's no changing my entities around, there's no doing any kind of modifications that way. It's just going to be whatever I've kind of set up on it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear out those particular, there's this new button here that says flush the direct entity draw, the edit entities, And what that's going to do is whatever I've got open at the moment, so the things that I want to be done with, I can close those out, and it's going to set that to whatever state I've got here. So you can see here, this has been set to suspended. I had a little history note here that said test, and so it put it in there as test. I could have had that where I was heading to lunch at this point in time. I didn't want it to record the information I'm working with anymore, so I was dumping that information off. And so what you see now is it's dumped out the information. What it's gone back into is read-only mode. So it's launched my 126 into read-only mode because that was what's in the center of my map. So it just had something in there, but again, it's not recording any information. It's only a read-only mode at that. So what this gives me now is a quick way to launch into steps. And I can launch into those steps. It doesn't have to be necessarily this edit and TerraScan step. It can be any step that I can configure that quick launch for. But just wanted to show you and then rolled right into the editing mode on the TerraScan because it's kind of flowed right into there. Makes things a little bit quicker to work